Hello everyone, I'm Smriti from Aksharda Public School. I'm studying in class 10. My topic is The Thief's Story. I am going to tell you about the plot and realization of this story. This story is one of the heart-touching and interesting story. This story is written by Ruskin Bond. He was born on 19 May 1934. He is now of 86 years old. He is from Kasauli. He studied in Bishop Cotton School, Shimla. He received awards such as Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan. His two famous English stories are The Blue Umbrella and The Black Cat. These two stories and other stories are converted into movies. The introduction to this story is that a young boy makes friendship with Anil. Anil trusts him completely and employs him, but Anil was unaware that the boy was a thief. The characters are Hari Singh and Anil. Places are Juman Sweet Shop, Railway Station, Maidan and Bazaar. You all will be curious to know about how does the story start. Let's see. The boy met Anil who was watching wrestling match. Then they both had a good conversation about wrestling and Anil talked about the well-oiled wrestlers. Then the boy asked to work for him, but Anil replied that he can't pay for the boy. Boy lies to Anil that his name is Hari Singh because as he was thief and to escape from police and other employees. Build up and development in the story. Anil trusted and agreed to provide work for the boy as he lied that he can cook and feed to Anil. Anil took the boy to his Jumna sweet shop. The boy cooked the meal that night and meal was not tasty. So Anil gave it to a stray dog. But Anil never minded and he told that he would teach him to cook, to write his name and whole sentences. Then the boy was very happy and felt grateful that he could become educated and respected man. What happens next? Let's see. Anil gave him a rupee as a salary and Hari was upset with it and he planned to rob one day. Anil made money by writing and publishing books. One day he published magazine and earned bundle of notes. Then he took those bundle of notes to his room and tucked under mattress. The boy saw it. Then he planned to rob one day. Finally, he robbed those bundle of notes on that night when Anil was sleeping. Money was about rupees 650. He was so happy and joyous that he could live like a rich Arab for a week. Then he escaped to Bazaar and railway station, but he couldn't catch the train. So from Bazaar he went again to Maidan. And in Maidan he sat for whole night. In a heavy rain he was wet and even the notes became damp. The problem in the story is that the boy was thief and robbed Anil's money, and boy was of another breed. The climax in the story is that the boy realized that he should not betray Anil's trust when he was sitting in Maidan. So he went back to Anil. It was night and he tucked damp notes under mattress because he realized his mistake and understood that he could become a rich and educated man by learning whole sentences and his name. Then he would earn more than 100 rupees. When he came back to Anil, he was completely nervous and afraid of Anil that he would give consequence for his mistake. At the end, Next day morning, Anil gave him a rupees 50 to boy and promised him that he will pay regularly and and promised to teach him write whole sentences and his name. Then he started to write whole sentences by giving attractive smile. This is how the story ends in an interesting way. The moral of the story is that we should not betray the trust because once if the trust is lost, everything is lost, and trusting person leads to miracles. And this quote we can refer to Anil because Anil didn't scold even a single word because he knew that trusting person leads to miracles. And Anil knew that boy understood his mistake and realized his mistake that he should not repeat it once again. So he didn't hand over boy to police. I hope you understood this story in an interesting way. Thank you.
A warm wishes to everyone. I am Vinay of grade 10, here to present the chapter The Thief's Story, written by Ruskin Bond. This story is all about the thief named Hari Singh changing himself to a good person after meeting Anil. The characters and the places where the story took place goes like this. The characters involved in the story are Anil, Hari Singh, the thief. Places where the story took place are Bazaar, Maidan, room over Jumna sweet shop. Now let's see how does the story begin. A thief named Hari Singh meets Anil at the age of 15. He describes himself as an experienced and a fairly successful thief. He approached Anil when he was watching wrestling. He describes Anil as a tall, lean fellow and an easygoing, kind and simple man. "You look a bit of wrestler," he said in flattery. After this introduction, they gossiped about the well-oiled wrestler and his reactions. Later on, Anil walked away and Hari tread on his heels. If we look into the build-up or development of the story, it continues like this. Hari followed Anil and asks him for a job, but Anil replies that he can't pay. He even says that he could pay if you could cook. Then Hari agrees to this condition and get into his confidence and work for him. Then Anil took Hari to his room over Jumna's sweet shop and told him to sleep on the balcony. At the night, Hari prepared a meal which was terrible, so it was given to a stray dog. But Anil did not react to his loss. Instead, he pat his head and said not to mind. He even convinced him that he would teach him to read and write and to add numbers. Next day in the morning, Hari prepared tea for himself and for Anil and went to buy day's supplies. He earned a rupee a day, which was known by Anil, but he did not seem to mind. Here, his forgiving nature and generous behavior reflected on his face. If we look into the next part of the story, it goes like this. Anil earned money by fits and starts. He would borrow money one week and lend next week. Sometimes he would get worried about his next check, but he would celebrate with his friends as soon as he received check. He wrote for a magazine and earned a little money through a queer way to make a living. One evening, he brought a bundle of notes to home, saying that he sold a book to a publisher. He kept it under the mattress, which was observed by Anil. Then Hari thinks of robbing Anil and justifies his plans in this way. "I had been working for almost a month, but did not do anything in my line of work, apart from cheating on the shopping." Anil trusted Hari a lot which gave Hari an opportunity to rob him. He had the keys of room and he could come and go as he pleased. Then Hari believed that Anil was the most trusting person he ever met, and that's the reason why it was difficult to rob people like Anil. He said it's easy to rob a greedy man, but it's difficult to rob a careless man. Thinking this for a while, he decides to do some real work. When Anil was asleep, he stole the money and decided to leave the city by Lucknow Express that departed at 10:30. He went onto the road and began to run with the notes. Later, he slowed down and counted the money, and it was 600 rupees in 50s. He thought that he could live like an oil-rich Arab for a week or two. Then, as he said, he never bought ticket to enter the station. Even this time, at the station, he did not stop to take the ticket, but instead dashed straight to the platform. He could have jumped and entered into one of the carriages, but he hesitated for some evident reason, which he didn't explain. He did not have any idea where to spend the night. He had neither friends with whom he could stay, nor he wanted to stay near the small hotels at the stations. Then he remembers Anil's faith and thought about the kind of people when they react after they lose their goods. He explained that the greedy man showed fear, the rich man showed anger, and the poor man showed acceptance. But in case of Anil, he knew that he would just show a touch of sadness, not for the loss of money, but the loss of trust. If we look into the climax of the story continues. After leaving the station, it started raining heavily. So, Anil went back to the bazaar and sat down in the shelter of the clock tower. He realized that he should go back to Anil and doesn't lose his trust and love. His interest towards reading and writing made him go back to home and return his money. Hari Singh entered the room quietly and slipped his hands under the mattress. Next morning, when Hari woke up a little late and noticed that Anil with his hands stretched a 50 rupees note between his fingers. Hari was shocked, thinking that he had been discovered. Anil gave him a 50 rupee note and said that he would be paid regularly as he had earned money a late night. Hari took the note in his hands and realized that the note was still wet. He smiled at Anil and in most appealing way, which came to him with no difficulty. Although Anil knew the theft, but he did not say anything to him, but he knew it, which he kept it as a secret in order to change Hari's attitude. The message that the story conveys is that the human values and relations are important in life and it can change a person. Good friendship and relationship change the bad habits and the attitude of a person. Thank you everyone.